So this conversation had already started, but let's go ahead and introduce the show. Welcome back to The Best Version of Me. I'm your co-host, Daniel Hernandez, with my co-host, Edgar Miranda. We're excited for today's show. We have a great and inspiring person, special guest on the show. Make sure that you subscribe, you like, and you comment below. Edgar, introduce our special guest to our show today.
Oh man, I got the chills on this one because this one we go way back.
Way back.
This is probably one of the interviews I've been looking forward to doing the most. Not because of the person who he is or how big he is, and let me tell you, he's the #1 concert promoter in the U.S., but just because of how much history we have together and just the way he is as a person. This individual just got finished filming a movie, which is right now #1 on Hulu. He's a #1 concert. He's a #1 concert promoter in the U.S. He's a booking agent for Ice Cube, Snoop Dogg, and a list of others. But man, most importantly, it's who he is as a person. He's still the same Bobby Dee presents that I've known since I was 14. And Bobby, it's an honor, a privilege for you to be on the show. And I know right now you're riding the law of the big momentum, and you're being pulled in every direction from every concerts, every states. And I know it's in your vision to go international.
We're already international. We got world tours coming.
We got to hear about that, man. Bobby.
Matter of fact, they're coming tomorrow from the UK to come visit us from Ireland. So
should be cool. You had a correction for us, right? The movie is on
Tubi.
Tubi.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, so Hulu's cool, but we're on Tubi. We're not on Hulu.
Hulu might be next because.
Yeah, we hope so. You know, so we'll see.
Absolutely. So our show, Best Version of Me, is created so that we move, touch, and inspire the world to be the best version of themselves.
Okay.
And when Edgar and myself, we have our conversation on who we know that is the best version of themselves. You're right there, one on the top of the list.
I appreciate that.
And your family to us, we look up to what you're doing and the things that you're doing that are inspiring other people to be the better version of themselves as well. So it was perfect to have you on the show.
I appreciate that, guys. I mean, it's an honor to be here with you guys. You know, I see what you guys are doing, and like Edgar said, I've known him since we were kids, and you know, I've seen the entrepreneur spirit in him as a 14-year-old. And I said, man, this is someone that I got to get to know, and I grew to love.
Absolutely.
You know? So, and I was, you know, when we were really Batman and Robin, I would protect him, you know, because so many people were jealous of this great-looking little pretty boy. You know what I mean? But there he was making more money than most adults make. You know, at 14. So I was inspired even back then.
Yeah. Absolutely. And back then, maybe you can kind of go back to Bobby Dee, maybe where you grew up at.
I grew up in Huntington Park, California. My family's all from there. You know, we were all born and raised there in Huntington Park, and you know, we never left the hood. My grandma was very successful. She had a 4th grade education and died with millions, and you know, her thing was real estate. But she never got out of the hood. We would say, Grandma, let's get out of Huntington Park, and she goes, No, mijo, I'm good where I'm at. I love it, you know. And she was just an amazing woman that inspired us. And a lot of my aunts and uncles, they all own real estate because of her. Little bit better education, but you know, the foundation was there. So yeah, man.
And then from Huntington Park,
we went to Downey, where we thought we made it big. That's the Beverly Hills.
Yeah,
that's the Beverly Hills. You know what I mean? And again, it was all my dad's hard work and perseverance, and just you know, really sacrificing for his family. You know, he did what he had to do to get us where we were at, and you know, I thank my mom and dad for that. They're still together. You know, just like Edgar's parents. You know, the foundation's there. So that's why I always try to really instill, like, you know, family, because a lot of people, a lot of kids, they grow without a mom or dad, and it shows, unfortunately.
Yeah. So Huntington Park, then you moved on up, right, to Downey?
Yeah, the Mexican Beverly Hills.
That's right.
You know? Yeah. And we loved it. Like I said, we were at that time in, God, I want to say 95, 94, we were the only Mexicans on the block.
How old were you at that time?
I'm 15, 14, you know, and you know, they made us feel like it for sure, you know, and but my mom and dad says, you know what, just ignore them, you know, and my dad's part German and part Mexican, you know, but you know.
That's where you get your last name from.
Yeah, that's where I get the last name from.
I still can't pronounce it.
Drieslein.
Drieslein.
Yeah, that's it.
That's why it's Bobby Dee.
Yeah, that's why it's Bobby Dee, because it's funny you say that, because that's how my dad came up with the name. People would say, oh, what's your name? And he was dealing with
Central. Senior.
Yeah, he's senior, but he's the real Bobby Dee, you know.
The real Bobby Dee, please stand up.
That's one thing I admire about you, is that you're always raising your dad. You're always
uplifting him.
Yeah, you're always lifting him. That's huge.
Bro, it's funny because when I was a kid, I was obsessed with him. You know, like most people, like, you know, they love their mom and dad, but me, I wanted to be everything that he was and learn everything he did. While my other brothers would join sports and this and that, all I cared about was hanging with my dad, you know?
That's awesome.
And at that time, my dad was into some, you know, other businesses. And I didn't care. I just said, hey, my dad's my world, and sometimes
Hero.
sometimes he would take vacations.
Absolutely, yeah.
And my heart was broken, but I'd go see him, and as a little kid. But he did everything for his family, and he's still here and still rocking. But he's the OG Bobby Dee, and he did shows before I did.
Wow.
So I grew up in nightclubs because of him. Lisa, when she first came out, I met her when she was like 19 or 20, and I was 7, 8. New Kids on the Block. I met Marky Mark. Him and I almost got into a fight, because I was like, "This is my dad's club," and he goes, "Well, I don't care. I'm security for New Kids on the Block."
Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
Oh no, yeah. There was no Funky Bunch yet.
Yeah.
But I remember we took them to In-N-Out, and they were blown away. And I think that later inspired them for Wahlburgers. Because again, they were so blown away by In-N-Out. Remember, they're from Boston.
Yeah.
So they were just really cool dudes, except Marky Mark.
Except for Marky
It was just. But again, he was the gangster of the bunch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He was security at 15. You know what I mean? So it's all good. Good experiences.
So what was the mindset like for you? They're now in Downey, 14, 15 years old. What were you thinking? Did you have any aspirations as you got older? What were your dreams?
Just to be like my dad. I would see the attention he got, and I would see how kind he was, and he always ruled with not an iron fist. He just ruled with leadership and making everybody feel comfortable. Growing up where we grew up, I grew up around blacks, Mexicans, Cubans. At that time, Huntington Park was like a melting pot, and because my dad's other businesses, he had to, associate with other people. So my uncles were black. I didn't know any better. My Uncle Curtis, rest in peace. Cousin Joe, he's gone forever. But I didn't know any better. So to me, it's like growing up with black people meant nothing to me. Asians, it was just
The people.
yeah. So I never understood the whole idea of racism because I'm like, man, those are people I call family.
Absolutely.
I didn't know until later on. They're like, that's not your uncle. I'm like, yeah, he is.
Yeah.
So, he takes me to Toys R Us all the time. So yeah, man. So that was one thing.
Then at the time, it's not about who's actual blood. It's who actually is.
It's loyalty. And again, those were good people. And I know that they always try to butter my dad up because he was the guy. But they treated me like family. I'd stay at their houses and, all their kids. And I would wake up in a black home with 8, 9 people. I didn't think there was anything wrong with that. And I still don't, So that's why when I transitioned into the music business, I was able to blend in with Snoop and Ice Cube because, again, we all came from those hoods, you know what I mean? And I didn't have any color lines, so it was natural when I'm talking to them about our experiences and, the same thing that they rap about is what, I went through too.
At the end of the day, we're all one.
That's it, and I still believe that, racism and all is just wasted energy, and it closes a lot of doors on you.
So were you working during high school?
Always, yeah. I started working. Again, I always worked for my dad. He would leave me on Pacific Boulevard. I don't know if you guys know where that's at. Yeah. That's like the mecca of shopping for all the people down there. He would leave me there from 8 a.m. to about 7 p.m. with like 10 boxes of flyers for Alejandro Hernandez, Vicente, whoever it was, Ana Gabriel. And he'd go, I'll pick you up in about 2 hours. 2 hours turned into 10 hours.
Forgetting about the posters.
Of course.
And the hammer gun.
Of course. That was a little bit later, but I loved it. Like my cousins, they would all say like, let's just throw them in the trash. And I'm like, no, I can't do that to my dad. Are you crazy? And, I love doing it. I love being out there and hustling. And
now, for the young bucks out there, we're talking about flyers.
Yeah. Flyers for concerts.
Printed out flyers.
Eventually, promotions became social media.
Yeah. I still believe in flyers. Like all my shows, we still print flyers and posters. I believe that there's still a demographic that I cater to that still likes tangible things,
And you still own your media company.
Yeah, of course. It's right next door. Yeah. BDP Media and Printtown.
You do printing for everybody now.
I don't. My dad does, but we do. My dad always transitioned. When he saw that, CDs and all that were becoming extinct, he got into like the NFT stuff. He got into,
He adapted.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man.
And we still do some, he does some incredible stuff over there. But I support him like no other.
What was your mindset being that age out there passing out flyers, and how did that transition into what you're doing today?
Again, it was natural to me because I grew up in the nightclubs. My dad owned a club in 1987 called Side Streets. We had every single big artist, Eazy-E, NWA, all those artists. So I would see them. So I just thought passing out flyers and doing that was just part of what I'm supposed to do. So when I'd go out there, my cousins didn't understand. My cousins. Yeah. They didn't understand. They were just like, man, are we going to get paid for this? Like after the first hour, they were done. They were tapping out. I'm like, I'll keep going. And my other brothers were like, dude, this is Dad's work. I'm not doing this. And I loved it. I loved it. I'd go to his meetings and he'd introduce me as Little Bobby and Little Bobby Dee. And I'm like, oh, this is cool, So it was just a great thing. But it was an easy transition because it came natural. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And then from high school, what was your journey after that?
High school was cool, man. I mean, look, here's the thing, and Edgar knows a little bit about this, but I moved out when I was 17. I made a bad decision to choose a girl that was older that already had a kid, and my mom wasn't having it, and my dad was kind of stuck in the middle, and I was already making money. I was working at Ralph's, and I was doing other extracurricular activities that I wasn't supposed to be doing. So I probably had more money than they did at the time, because my dad decided to make a shift in his life where he wasn't going to do anything that was going to, potentially make him go away, and he was very humble, He made a smart move with that house that he bought in Downey because he bought it cash, And he says, at least we have the house. So I moved out when I was 17, and that's when I started becoming quite a little maniac. You know what I mean? Yeah. But again, it hurt me. But everything my mom warned me about, she was right.
She was right.
The girl broke my heart. I was doing dumb things. I started working as a bouncer for some of the people that you guys may know, Edgar Fragoso, Javier Castellanos. And also, I was 17 years old fighting grown men.
He was the same height too.
Yeah, I was always big. Yeah.
Black belt in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu.
In fact, he's the one who introduced us to Gracie name when Gracie wasn't even a known name.
It was just, I had to equip myself with something because I was 17 years old, and I actually owned my own company at that point.
Security company.
Yeah, security company, employing about 30 to 40 guys.
At 17.
At 17. Yeah.
Are you still practicing jiu-jitsu?
Always. I always have my gis in the back, or my whole backyard's an oasis of like mats and weights and Nautilus machines and all that.
Your son too, right?
Yeah.
In jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
It's I showed them that, and I remember
he's actually the reason for that.
Yeah.
And he's the reason also my brother ever fell in love with jiu-jitsu and a whole realm of.
I remember they made me challenge the biggest guy they had. I forgot his name, and I
Frank.
Remember? And I kind of made him feel silly. I was like, all right, you guys throwing the biggest guy at me, all right, And he couldn't do anything. He got frustrated. Remember that, bro?
Yes.
I guess I have to show prove myself. But those guys always showed me love, and I learned a lot from the internationals. I had never seen such a moving unit where Ever was like the older brother. He was like the support system. The dad was right there just supporting everything they did. And not necessarily getting involved, but because he had his own soccer thing there, indoor soccer league, which I'd never seen before. And all that stuff inspired me to say, man, this is cool. I want something like this. The international thing, remember, these guys were kids. We were kids. Yeah. So that blew me away. I was always impressed by that. And then John Pena, another guy that we all looked up to, was kind of showing them the way.
Big bro.
And it was a big bro. And I'm very proud of John. He's a legend. He's the one that I think is the legend.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he paved the way for a lot of us, and just a good man. I still talk to him every other day. He texts me, "What's up, man? How you doing, brother? Miss you." So he's a good dude.
So when you moved out of your house, your parents' house, did you also stay in Downey, or did you go?
No, So I bought a '82 Honda Civic, from a paisa, and he sold it to me for $400. It's a 4-speed, primer, and it had a what's that thing called? A Flowmaster.
Flowmaster? Oh yeah.
I told him, I says, can you do a little bit better than 400? He goes, serio? So I love that little car, bro. That was my first car I bought,
Cool.
And I remember one time we were on the freeway. It was me and my cousin, because I convinced him to move out with me because he fell in love with my girlfriend's sister. She was 21. He was 16. And we're on the freeway, right, dipping. Flowmaster sounded loud.
That sounds loud.
So the CHP pulls me over. And they go, you know why I pulled you over? And I go, I have no idea, sir. And he goes, well, you were speeding. And I go, no, sir, I think that's impossible. And he goes, why is that? I go, sir, it doesn't go over 45 miles per hour. Bro, he started laughing. He goes, you know what, get out of here. It was the funniest scene. But I humbled myself and.
And those are all wins for you, right?
Yeah.
Being able to buy your own car.
Yeah, I was very independent, bro. And that's one thing that I pride myself on is that I never took anything from my mom and dad. I took my dad's name, and that's it. Pat, when I moved out, I never asked for anything, and I never went back. Again, I did some dumb things when I was young, but it helped me grow to who we are now. Yeah. And again, the main thing was just hurting my parents, and mainly because I thought I knew better than my mom. She's like, that girl's gonna hurt you. She's gonna break you. And I said, well, you let me figure it out. Oh, she did all that and then some. She made me like Darth Vader. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's from my transition. I was a nice little Anakin Skywalker, then became Darth Vader.
Now, was there an event or a thought process or a rebellious that says, okay, I want to do this my own way, or did something happen where you decided to say,
well, you gotta understand. I was making money already. So money gives freedom sometimes.
Yeah, you're making a lot of it.
Yeah, at that time, like I said, not bragging, but for a 17-year-old, I was making $25,000 to $3,000 a week. That's a lot of money. Yeah, and what I did is I was very entrepreneurial, if that's even a real word. I would go to Costco and buy candy. and I put them in, and I got the good stuff, M&Ms,
Yeah,
you know,
the good ones.
lollipop, the good ones though. And I would have like 30 people selling candy for me. And then I was doing other stuff, which never drugs, but I was doing other stuff at department stores, doing silly stuff that I shouldn't have done. But, you know, again, and then the principal tells me, because I used to lift weights with him. He goes, I'm hearing all these rumors that you're doing this and that. He goes, what are you doing? You have a mafia in here in the school? I go, Mr. House, I'm not sure what you're talking about. He goes, come on, don't play dumb with me. You know?
The Downey Gambinos.
Yeah, the Downey Gambinos, yeah. But it was funny because I was going to school from West Covina to Downey. I would get home around 3 in the morning, maybe sometimes 4, depending on if there was
That's where you
fights.
moved to West Covina?
Yeah, and I'd have to be at school at 7 a.m. like anybody, you know, 7, 8 a.m. And so I started missing school, and in Downey they changed it where if you missed a certain amount of days, you drop a letter grade.
Correct, yeah.
So I was failing, even though I was acing every single thing. Like the work always came easy. Like,
Just the attendance.
yeah, I could read something and say, okay, I'm ready, you know? So the principal gave me a break. He goes, you know what, Bob? He goes, you're going to fail. He goes, but you did all this RLP, so you have enough credit. Come in for 1 hour a day to school. After you wake up from your nightclub, he goes, I know what you're doing. I heard, you know? He goes, and just come pass.
I haven't heard that in a
Yeah,
long time, ROP.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was smart. I built it up.
You brought some memories, man. When I was a senior, I ran into my English teacher at the Muse. I gave him drink tickets, and he's my English teacher, and he sees me. I'm a senior in high school, and he's like, "What are you doing here?" Next day, I'm like his best friend, and he aced me, and his name was Mr. Brown. He's no longer at that school anymore. But man, you just brought some memories.
But this is the
Mr.
principal.
Brown,
I used to
yeah.
lift weights with him, you know? And he told me, he goes, hey, look, he goes, we had a meeting about you. We're supposed to fail you. You know, even though you ace every test, this and that. He goes, and look, I'm not even going to talk about the nightclub stuff or what you're doing across the street at the Stonewood Mall or what you're doing with the candy. He goes, I love you, kid. He goes, and you know, I know where you live. I go, man, how do you find out about all this stuff, you know? And he goes,
you run like an permit using your dad's house as
no,
address?
I didn't use anything. I just, just didn't tell anybody, but they knew.
Yeah,
you know,
they
people
knew you were-
talk. You know, they're like, you know, he works at a nightclub. You know, I actually had the security guards at the campus asking me, hey, can I work for you at your company? Yeah. I'm like, and I think one of them ratted me out because I wouldn't hire him. You know what I mean? So I think they ratted me out.
The Bobby I know, Bobby's a few years older than I, but for me, he was always like the man, even though we were only 4 years apart.
Yeah.
The way you see him now.
And in
was
high
a-
school too, 4 years
No,
is a big difference.
He was 17 wearing suits.
Yeah.
Oh.
And back then, it's like no 17-year-olds have suits, and he would have a suit, different suit every single time. So he always took himself serious.
Yeah.
He always was the best version of himself in whatever he got involved with.
Yeah.
And I mean, fast forward to today, it's not a coincidence that he's the #1 concert promoter in the U.S.
So how did that happen from owning your security company, right? Finishing high school, moving out, living out. How did that from there go into promotions and so forth?
Honestly,
on your own?
it was always there, you know. But again, I was supporting my dad, and what happened is my dad got really discouraged by the companies like Live Nation. You know, we had a little niche, which was the Central American market, you know, and you know, we were doing really well at the Hollywood Palladium. And even though the owner there was super racist, and I love him, you know, he's still alive to this day. He doesn't own the place anymore, but he would tell us, he goes, you know, your people scare me. He would shut off the alcohol at 10 o'clock, and the show's over at 12. But if it was like, you know, Green Day, he would let it go to 1 in the morning. You know what I mean? And we were doing the biggest numbers there. And then one day he goes, I got some good news and I got some bad news. I go, what's that, Alan? And he goes, the good news is I just sold this building for $50 million to Live Nation. And I go, what's the bad news? He goes, you're out. And my dad was like, what? He goes, yeah, you guys got to find a new home.
How long? When was this?
This is like in, I don't know, man. I was 21 or 22 or
Are any of the
23.
execs from Live Nation still with the company?
Oh, yeah.
Because now you guys are like, I
Oh yeah,
know
of
they
course,
want to
we're
buy out
partners.
your company. For
Yeah,
a
they're our
couple-
strategic partners, and I love
Yeah.
Live Nation, bro. They're great, and you know they're a company that I've grown with a lot, and you know.
Are you able to say how much they've been wanting to buy your company?
I'd rather not say. You know?
Couple zeros? Because last time we spoke,
Yeah,
you were
yeah.
like,
It's more.
I'll sell it after they have 2 more zeros.
Yeah, it's a lot
behind
more
it.
than
I'm
that.
like, probably,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can retire for like.
It's a lot more than that, you know.
Oh, man.
But again, I'm happy doing what I do. One of the things that I would have to do is eliminate my staff, and that's one thing I refuse to do. They're like, okay, well, you got to get rid of these people. I'm like, I'm not going to get rid of those people. Even during the pandemic, I kept everybody on payroll.
Yeah.
You know, I just said, you know, I don't want you guys to suffer because of what's going on. I made enough money that I could, you know, facilitate it. And then when I was going to die, you know, which we'll talk about whenever you guys are ready to, I just said, well, what does it mean? Just give it to everybody. Like, keep them working, you know? And Andre, my accountant, was like, no, let's just let everybody go. I'm like, no, bro, like, I don't even know if I'm going to be here, you know? Yeah. So I just got off a ventilator, and I'm like, you're hitting me with way too much stuff here, you know? I go, keep everybody working, and it'll come back to us.
So I guess that's probably like a best segue right now. Maybe we could talk a little bit about that incident and what took place and where your mindset's at now.
Well, I just got really sick right during the peak of the pandemic, and I don't know what happened, but I guess I got something called diverticulitis, which almost every man gets, but not to the degree that I got. I ignored it because my philosophy was like, you know, just take a pill to fix everything. So I thought, okay, I'll just take Tylenol to fix it. And I was going to take an Ambien and go to sleep because I couldn't sleep. I was sweating, and I was like, man, I think I have COVID. You know, I finally got it, you know? And the girl I was seeing at the time goes, no, you're turning green, you know? And I passed out. And I had just got done lifting. I was huge and like all muscular, so I thought, I'm healthy. What do you mean?
Best shape of your life?
Yeah, best shape of my life. Like after I'll show you pictures, you're like, oh my God, you know? I was just feeling great. Well, that didn't happen, and she took me to the hospital. I don't know how she dragged my big ass in the car, because the nurse goes, if you don't bring him based on what you're telling me, he's gonna die. Do not give him that Ambien because he won't wake up. And she didn't, and I listened to her, and they told me I was COVID-free. And the minute that I laid down on the hospital table, my stomach exploded. Wow. Like the minute. Like if I would have waited another hour, I would have been dead in my house. And I woke up on a ventilator. I woke up to hearing all these doctors, you know, just talking casually. No, he's not going to make it. He already flatlined, you know, for 4 seconds in there.
So you were dead for 4 seconds?
I was dead for 4 seconds. Wow. And the doctors were talking, you know, not you know, cold, or they were just saying, it looks like he's going to be a goner, so let's let his parents know that it looks bleak, and, you know, he probably won't make it through the night. And I'm like, what? I can hear you guys, but I can't talk because I'm on a ventilator. Yeah. And I'm hearing all these things, and I'm like, wow, I think I'm really going out. You know, I'm like, and all I wanted to do was say bye to my mom and dad. Wow. That was like my biggest thing, was just let me say bye to them. You know, and at that time, you couldn't even go to a hospital because of COVID. Yeah. No visitors. So that was the toughest thing. And I told you, my mom went undercover. My dad tells the story. It's really funny. He's like, Dad, like at 1 a.m, he's like, Thelma, where are you going? And she's getting dressed in her Kaiser because she worked for Kaiser for 30 years, you know? And she's putting on her mask and her little badge. And she's only admitting, she's not a nurse. And she goes, he goes, Thelma, I don't know, you know, you don't work this late. She goes, screw it. I'm going to go see my son one last time. I don't care. She goes, they can arrest me. I'm going in.
Mother, right?
Yeah, and she was in there for 2 hours and holding my hand. I don't remember it, you know? I had a chalkboard, and I think I said, like, help, you know? So, mom and dad, man, they're crazy. And the head of HR went in and said, hey, you know, you really screwed up. And she goes, you know what, after 30 years, do you think I give a crap about this? All good. If I didn't see, I don't care. She was firing me, do what you got to do. She goes, it's all good. She goes, it was worth it.
It was worth it.
Yeah. So I got out of there, got healthy. In the process, you know, we did that big song with Snoop and Banda Mesa, and it became like a global hit. You know, and that was one of the visions that me and Snoop had about building the song to unify, you know, blacks and Mexicans. Blacks and Latinos, but mainly blacks and Mexicans because of, you know, Banda Mesa. And it hit. And at that time, I think we needed to have some unity. You know, like all the little old ladies were doing TikToks from Mexico, of Snoop. It was wild. Yeah. And I felt really proud. That was one of my proudest accomplishments, that we did that together and really unified people for that moment, you know?
What was your mindset before that happened, and where were you at on your game? And then where is it at now after the fact, and what was your...
Well, actually, you know, my momentum was like super hot. Pre-pandemic, like we couldn't lose. Every show was selling out. You know, we had Lovers and Friends coming up, if you remember that, which did play out 2.5 years later. But everything was like, I could not lose.
100,000 people you did?
120.
120,000.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
That's huge.
Yeah,
I'm so proud of that.
Yeah, we just couldn't lose, and boom, the pandemic hits.
Yeah.
And we're like, and you know, no one knew what that was. So I'm like, well, how does that affect us? And I kept saying, we're 4 days away from hitting the finish line for Lovers and Friends to play out. And boom, the pandemic hit.
Yeah, I remember we had met, and you had it on scraps of what.
Yeah, remember? Yeah, you remember?
This is huge.
Yeah. And then, you know, then no one believed it was real. You know, like everybody was going online saying it was fake. People like to destroy beautiful things, you know? And I said, no, it's very real. So that's when Snoop got on there and said, Little Kim, whatever you're doing, stop all that bullshit. You know this is real. Then Usher put it, and then Lauryn Hill, and it was great, you know, but it didn't play for 2.5 years. So the world kind of got put on pause, and that was some scary times, you know, because entertainment was completely shut down.
So you were on the top of your game before. During pandemic, you flatlined for 4 seconds.
Died for 4 seconds.
Yeah, died for 4 seconds, yeah.
And then now, depending on your faith, you know, but many would believe that it was God that
100%
touched your life, right? There was something inside you. There was something that you still had to give. There was still something for you to accomplish in life, so that it wasn't your time.
Well, the main thing I wanted to do was take care of my parents. You know, that's always been my philosophy. Even when I was hitting, you know, the first thing I would do is just say, let me give them this before I give myself. You know, that was very important. I wanted to buy my mom. You know, I got like the Elvis, you know, thing. Like I wanted to give my mom a car, and I've always had her in a nice car. And then I was able to do it comfortably, where it was hers, not a lease, not a, you know.
Yeah.
And that always made me happy, bro. Like more than anything. And you know, teaching my son what I'm teaching him, my daughter, and you know, just showing them they didn't have to do the things that I did.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So it's been cool, man.
You know, we've had the privilege of interviewing some high-level people like yourself, Bobby. And the common denominator of everyone's success is they have the big why.
Yeah.
And they say that when the why is big enough, the how is easy. You freaking died, Bobby, for 4 seconds.
Yeah.
And you could have gone either this way, where you just say, you know what, I'm done, because you're already at a level where you could have done it.
Yeah.
You know, but from that moment, like you went 10x. You went quantum. You started doing shows at the 100,000 people show that you did in Vegas. 120, sorry.
Yeah.
And more to come.
That's what he's thinking in his mind. What?
And your why it was so big. And now that we're talking, that really moves me. The fact that your mom, your dad, and that's something that the audience, our kids watching this, you know, this best version of me, for me, my why is really to move, touch, and inspire the youth out there. And they got to hear your story because I know, and there's a lot of parts that we're leaving out of the story. Maybe that'll be part 2.
Yeah.
But we got to get you on. We got to get you on. We got to get you on.
Yeah.
And
I've always seen it like this. Like I genuinely always try to be kind. You know, I always try to be nice, and you know, everybody always turns to God when there's a tragedy that happens. You know, I think people should kind of get in tune with themselves and just praise Him before it goes bad.
Praise Him.
You know,
before
that way He's like, that way you don't have to make God decide. Hey, do you want to help this fool? You know what I mean?
Good or bad.
That's,
good or bad.
That's great, and that's another common denominator. That you're talking about God. God number one. You know, I got to tell you that, like, that guy right there behind you, the Misfits. Right? I walk into your office and I feel right at home because you have the same individuals working here that I've known for 20 years. It was nice to see some faces. In fact, we were reminiscing.
Brian, Andre.
We were reminiscing of some stories. And your leadership of who you've been, of who you are as a person, your ways of being haven't shifted.
Right.
And that's one of the key components of the show is the best version of me. You've always, the bigger you've gotten, Bobby, the more honey you become.
Right.
You know, in Think and Grow Rich, they say you could attract more bees with honey than with vinegar.
Right.
And you've mastered that. And the minute you started partnering up with Snoop and all these artists, I said, watch this guy. It's going to be a matter of seconds where he's the #1 concert promoter.
Right.
Bigger than any concert promoter, which Ralph Verdugo was one of the ones was growing up.
He was huge.
Not Ralph Verdugo.
Ralph Hauser.
Ralph Hauser.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Ralph Hauser, rest in peace. Growing up, he was one of the big ones. And it's your ways of being.
Yeah.
You're loving, you're kind, you're generous. You ain't nice.
Yeah.
You ain't nice. But you're loving, you're kind, you're generous, you're polite. And I say you ain't nice because you're not one to be roughed up.
Well, it's like this, bro. Like I always say, I'll give you what you give me.
Yeah.
You know, but my first inclination is to always be polite. Is to always be, you know, I've always been over polite. You know, yes sir, yes ma'am. People should think I was in the military. I'm like, no, far from it. But I just believe in treating people kind. And even now, like I tell people all the time, I'm like, I don't care if you're a janitor at those buildings I go into, or if you're the CEO. The one thing that always, you know, people always say, the common denominator, I use that word, is that, damn, Bobby's nice to everybody. I'm like, well, you know, I was there. Like who are we to treat that one person who's really doing all the heavy lifting?
That's right.
Versus a CEO that just comes in and signs a paper. So I've always, you know, that's one thing, like at my home base in Ontario, the Toyota Arena, the staff loves us because we go in there and make them feel like, hey, you know, like it's actually their home, but I make it feel like it's my home, like they're invited to my home.
You brought that place to life.
Yeah, you know, that's the one thing I've been successful at doing is getting places that kind of lost, you know, the spark, like Microsoft Theater, remember that?
Yeah.
You know, and we recreated that place. And then, you know, I said, okay, let me move on. Then I found Ontario, which was just dead.
Oh,
I love it.
Yeah.
But that place was like where every promoter goes to die. You know what I mean? And I said, no, there's money in those hills. And we did Bon Them at 3 nights sold out, you know, for our first gig. Wow. And after that, it was over, you know, so.
And,
cool.
And I'm seeing a lot of big other promoters coming in with.
And I love it.
Oscar just had his boxing promotion. and you really paved the way to make that place hip again.
Yeah, and you know,
And it's a nice arena.
It's beautiful.
Beautiful arena.
Yeah, the management's great there. Everyone's great, and it's just, you know, to me, it's demographics. You got to study where you're at. A lot of people migrated from LA that couldn't afford it no more to the IE.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And those are the people that love Keith Sweat, Snoop Dogg, and, you know, Banda MS and Grupo Firme. So I've been really lucky and fortunate to follow my instinct and go.
So now, what would you do? What would you go back if you were able to go back in time and tell your younger self? What were some things you would tell your younger Bobby Dee?
But
Knowing what you know now, right?
Not to
he
be.
does have a son that looks identical to
Yeah,
him.
he's my little twin.
A little handsome.
Yeah, he's a little twin. I would just tell myself not to put my parents through what I put them through. You know, because I did cause my parents a lot of pain and a lot of frustration, and you know, I've been shot, you know, I've been stabbed, I've had some things happen to me in my life where it's just like I didn't care because the physical didn't bother me. You know, I've got broken wrists and broken hands from fighting and this and that, but to me, the hurt that I caused my mom, because when you get shot, they don't tell you, oh, he's okay, because I was okay. I got shot twice. They just say, your son's been shot. Thank you, and they hang up. Wow. So it's like seeing my mom, and I had a bunch of strippers in the waiting room waiting for me. I was like, you know, my mom was like, once my mom saw that I was okay, she was like,
yeah,
okay, you stupid mother effer, you know there's a bunch of strippers and your girlfriend's on the way. I'm like, oh my God, get him out of here.
Get him out of here.
Yeah, but the pain, you know, just the pain I caused them, it's like, okay, and then the nervousness. My dad, like, he tries to put up a strong front, but I could tell I hurt him, you know? So if I could take anything away, I would never take away the drive and the ambition, but I would take away some of the hurt that I caused.
I can picture that. What's going on?
Yeah,
What's going on?
No, he would just shake his head, and that's the worst. Like, my mom and dad, they never hit me. They never hit us as kids growing up. But when my dad would shake his head, I knew it was all bad. Like, your dad, bro, like, your dad's a beast, you know what I mean? Like, his dad would give the scowl, and, bro, you wanted to hide in one of those soccer nets, bro, I swear to God, you know? So, but, you know, that's what moms and dads do.
That's right.
And then he had a crush on my older sister.
Oh, my God, man. He has a beautiful family, man. They're like, they were the Kardashians before the Kardashians. Every one of them is beautiful, bro, like the guys, the girls. Like,
We have a good story.
Absolutely.
We go to Disneyland.
oh, shit.
We go to Disneyland. I think I'm 14, 15. I'm telling you, he was my big brother.
Yeah.
Bobby's 17. My sister's 19, 20. She's a little older. Now I know that you had a thing for older girls.
Right.
Bobby, after
See?
hearing this, we get on a ride. You probably forgot about this. And we tie my cousin's hair.
Oh, yeah, of course.
On the actual roller coaster, right?
That was so funny. She was like this, bro.
Oh, my God.
He's a prankster, bro. You don't even know the stuff they used to do, bro. Like, they did some
Yeah,
heavy
I did
stuff.
that for my dad.
Yeah.
My son's identical.
No
He
way.
does some pranks.
Cash?
Oh yeah, Easton. Yeah, Easton Cash. Yeah. Man, you'll love him.
Oh, I mean, look, man, like his wife, his kids, like Edgar to me is like the fairy tale. You know what I mean? Like,
Thank you, brother.
know, I
Means a
mean
lot.
that, bro. And again, we've always maintained our friendship. It's always been sincere. Like every time I've ever, you know, someone calls me for something, I send it to him if he could do it. You know, like, and I just genuinely love this guy, and you know,
And I love you,
He was my best man at my wedding.
there you go.
I've known him since he was
Yeah, there you
16 years
go.
old.
Just good people, bro. Like, and I always wanted to surround myself around people like that. But I kind of just did it on my own. You know what I mean? Like I let everybody do their thing, and I'm like, I gotta forge this thing by myself. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I didn't have an international man. You know, I didn't have a John Pena. I had, you know, myself, but I always took from the little things I saw. Is like he got a bunch of young kids and made them little entrepreneurs, like from 2x2.net to just constantly hustling. Like he's the inspiration. I used to go to their place. I had a cell phone place. Like, who does that at 15 years old? You know what I mean? So that's why doing a security company at 17 was just like, well, he could do it. He's 14. Like, why can't I do it? You know? Right. So it motivated me a lot. And I opened up a security company with the Gracie family.
Yeah.
Remember Gracie Security?
Yeah.
And it was cool, man.
And they're doing some great things.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, been doing some great things.
Huge.
So, yeah. But, you know, I just want to constantly remind kids now, like you could do it. And I don't mean to sound corny, but like you can get to where you want to be if you just stay motivated, you know, stay focused and just don't give up. You know, people see that we're successful, but they don't understand the
journey.
Yeah, the journey, the rejections, the doubts, the fears. You know what I mean? Not having money when you got to project that you do.
Mistakes.
You know, fake it till you make it. You know, and but just hang in there. You know, that's what I tell everybody. Like my son, like he wants to be what he thinks I am. I'm like, son, you're better than that. You know, and I go, look, I'm building everything for you to take over. I go, but you got to understand. I started from the bottom. Like I have him starting at like runner. Yeah. You know, now he's a production manager. You know, next I want to make him into a promoter. You know, so he knows everything. Because that's the one thing I didn't. I would just like, when they would show me stuff at these shows, I would, selling shows out is easy, you know? 10,000 people, cool. But I didn't know any of the stuff behind it. They would be telling me stuff like, yeah, They're like, you don't know what you're doing, huh? They go, but you know how to sell out shows? And I'm like, yep. But now I learned. Now I know what a production thing is. Now I know what a schedule is and all that good stuff. But I just got lucky, man.
So let's talk about some of the artists so that the audience knows.
Yeah.
Because you've done some big artists I can't even keep up. I was walking around and I mean, you've done Morrissey.
Yeah, Morrissey, Sean Paul. I mean, Keith Sweat, who I consider my uncle. I've made money with him since I was 17. You know what I mean? Like I remember my first show at Quiet Cannon. I flopped. And I had money that I thought was more than I thought. And I didn't think I would fail because it's like we have the mentality like we'll never fail, and it was dead. And Keith Sweat goes, "You got my money?" And I'm like, "No, sir." This is before the show, like he was about to go on. And he goes, "I had a feeling because you look real nervous." And I go, "Yes, sir." He goes, "How old are you?" I go, 17. He goes, "Oh boy." He goes, "Bobby, this is what we're gonna do. Is I'm gonna perform, and you got to promise me that you'll pay me back one day." He goes out, and he tells that story to everybody.
He's a class act.
Oh, he's the best, bro. I love him, bro. Like he's one of my idols,
Yeah.
That's a great story.
Yeah, we were in Atlanta at his house, and he's got a big old mansion on the water.
Yeah.
And he was telling some other guys, he goes, you want to hear a funny story? And he told the 17-year-old story, and I paid him back. Then we did the Gibson Amphitheater. Remember that?
Yeah.
And got all the money back, and I paid him, and it was cool. And now look, 25, 30 years later, we're still here. It's cool.
That's even right there.
Yeah, that's a whole nother.
Integrity in itself.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's part of being the best version of you. The fact that you were just full circle. And man, I'm excited to see what's to come.
Yeah.
The movie. Talk about the movie because right now you just got filmed.
That was a favor for Keith Sweat. He asked me. He says, "Hey Bob, he goes, because you look like a mobster or a doctor." Or you look like a chameleon, and I go, but Keith, I'm super shy. Like, don't do this to me. He goes, nephew, I need you to do this in a sexy voice. He goes, nephew, I need you to do this for me. And I say,
it's hard to say no to him. Right?
Yeah. So I just kept putting it off, and then the director called me. He goes, we shoot in 2 days. And I'm like, shoot what? He goes, your movie. He goes, you're Rudy, the mechanic. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm Bobby Dee. And I just knuckled down and just took the script and started reading it. I said, all right, I can do this. And inside my butterflies were going. I memorized their lines and told them, because they were flubbing their lines. And Marquis Hughes was like, my lines too. I'm like, I know everybody's lines. I had to, So it was cool.
So where did you find the movie?
On Tubi.
On Tubi.
It's called Stepmother.
Yeah.
Stepmother.
Stepmother.
So it's already out.
It's out. It's #1 streaming right now. It's a free app, so like you could just tune it on your Roku.
Yeah.
And it's cool. Like I wasn't gonna watch it, to be honest with you, because I got like a complex. But I watched it. I was like, all right, that was kind of cool. I did good. I died in it too, by the way.
Oh, he told us.
I gotta tell you,
watch that.
and it's because it's gonna get recorded.
Yeah.
You're gonna do big things in the movie industry.
Yeah, they want me to do another one with 36 pages of lines.
I see 100%. It. I see it.
Yeah.
Once you're in there,
people
who
been hitting
you are,
it.
They're gonna see who
Yeah, it's
just, Keith Sweat already told me, he goes, man, I got like 19 calls about. Hey, who's that Mexican dude, or who's that Filipino guy? Everyone thinks I'm Asian,
And you can play any role.
Yeah, that's what he said. Or the Hawaiian guy.
Bobby, you got the charisma. You got the you're that type of person that when you walk into a room, you light it up, man.
Yeah,
you light it up.
I appreciate that, guys.
And no matter how big you've gotten, rolling up in your Ferrari or Lamborghini, I gotta tell you guys, this guy has every car you can think of. It's still Bobby Dee.
Yeah.
It's still the big teddy bear Bobby Dee, and
no need to change, bro.
And that right there it's huge.
But that comes from, again, having nothing to having things. Like when I was a kid, we had everything, and then it would get taken away. Yeah. Obviously because of my dad. He'd be gone. Then we were living 5 of us, 6 of us in a 1-bedroom apartment in Bellflower. So it's like I've known what it's like to have everything and have nothing. Yeah. But we always had each other. Yeah. That's why, like, if I get in arguments with my little brother, not my older brother's like another one of my mentors. But I tell my little brother, I go, look, life's too short, man. I almost died. Like, don't hold grudges. To me, it's like I've lost too many people to realize that you'll never see that person again. It's like just be kind, And my little brother's cool. He's just a little head case sometimes.
Yeah, on your social media, I saw the little clip of the movie. It was you, Mark Houston. They're on the patio.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this guy is already a natural.
Yeah, man.
Natural.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah,
absolutely.
So we're getting some offers, and Keith Sweat's telling everybody that listen, I'm his manager, I'm his agent. I'm like, oh, you really?
He's claiming it.
So it's cool, man. But,
so when you hear the words or the phrase "best version of me,"
not virgin,
right?
Virgin, all right?
Yeah, best version of me. What comes to your mind? What do you think of?
Honestly, when I hear that line, it just inspires me to continue to be better. If that makes sense. I know I'm answering it with a question, but I really want to inspire my son, my daughter, anybody that because I get emails and DM messages saying, Bobby, can you help me? Can you help me become a promoter? And I always answer. I'll always answer somebody, you know, and it's the weirdest thing, but I'm not saying this to brag, but people ask me to take pictures, and I think it's the weirdest thing. I'm like, why do you want to take a picture with me? You know, but I'll take it. I never said no to anybody. It's just the strangest thing when they ask me for my advice, and when they ask me, I answer. And the most honest thing I ever say is just don't give up. You know, don't let someone tell you no. You know, as long as you're doing it the right way and you keep working at it, then you'll be okay. You know, you're going to fail, you're going to lose money, you're going to have people, you know, hang up on you and tell you no. I went through that, bro, when I was first building these shows. They're like, well, who are you with? And I'm like, Bobby Dee Presents, click.
A lot of politics in
Yeah, a lot of politics. You know, and these agents, because I own an agency now where I represent about 25 artists, you know, and Warren G's, Xzibit, Snoop, Ice Cube, Be Real, Cypress Hill. These are artists that we grew up on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, like the reason why I got tight with Snoop is because I tried to book him through the normal process, and they hung up on me.
Great story. Right
Yeah.
there.
So when I finally got to meet Snoop and I had a show with him, he looked around, he goes, holy shit, like where you been? I go, I tried going through your agencies, and they hung up on me. He goes, what? What do you mean? And I told him the story. He goes, oh hell, we're gonna change that. He goes, look, Bob, Black and Brown's about to get together and make some history.
Wow.
So you wanted to book him, you went through the right channel,
Yeah.
and maybe kind of share a little bit about that.
Well, they hung up on me, you know. And then when I finally got to Snoop, that guy called me and was, you know, threatening me and saying things. He was going to ruin me in the business. And I says, do me a favor, ask about me and you know who I am, and then call me back. Then he changed his whole tune. He goes, are we okay? I'm like, yeah, we're okay. You know, we're cool. You know.
That's what I said earlier. You're loving your king, you're kind, but you ain't nice.
Yeah, of course.
You know.
Yeah.
That's the part. You are nice to everybody. I'm talking about.
I know what you mean.
that.
Yeah. And again, like you have to have a little bit of that. You have to be tough. You have to
Especially
be
in the industry, right?
Yeah, but again, I'll give you what you give me. Yeah. You know, I've had the chance to sit down with people from big organizations, you know, some underworld, some CEOs of major companies, and the common denominator I've seen, even with those people that were considered underworld, is they all have great minds. Leaders, like I tell someone, I'm like, man, if you were the CEO of like, you know, of Yahoo, or you'd be a major player. You just chose to live a different lifestyle. Then when I talk to CEOs, they have a little bit of that too. They just chose to, you know, wear a suit every day and a tie and blah blah blah. But nonetheless, bro, I met some people that inspired me, whether they're from the underground or from the corporate world. You know what I mean? So I don't judge anybody. You know?
You just brought to mind. I was having a conversation with Oscar De La Hoya,
Yeah.
and he said, "It doesn't matter how big of a fish you are. What pond are you eating from?"
Right.
And when I heard that, I was like, wow. And right now you just brought that to light. Because what advice would you give these individuals that is maybe not going in a different route to pretty much go this route to really
Be a better version of
be
themselves.
a better version of themselves?
Again, it's just going to come with trial and error. You know, you have to be willing to put yourself out there and either fail or, because look, like you learn when you fail. Anybody that says they haven't failed is a liar. And anybody that says that money's the root of all evil is broke. You know what I mean? They just don't have any. You know what I mean? And again, because like I said, money. I like making money because it allows me to do things I want to do. Passion projects like this is coming out of your guys' pocket. You know what I mean? Like you're not making millions off this. I know that. But the money you've made from your hard work. But Edgar has always worked hard so he could do stuff like this. You know what I mean? I've seen him lose a lot of money and I've seen him make more money. You know, but he never gave up, and he didn't attribute and just give up. Like the one thing that people do is they take their shot and then they give up and they just blame everybody. Yeah. Instead of just looking and studying why they did that.
Learn from it.
Yeah, you got to learn from it. You know, like I said, I've been told no so many times, more than I've been told yes. And I just, instead of taking it personal, I just says, okay, let me figure out why, and let me figure out how I can go around this person then. You know what I mean? If you're not going to give it to me, then I'm going to take it.
Were some of those notes kind of fuel for the fire?
Always, but I didn't. When I was younger, I used to take it personal. You know, when I got older, you know, I started saying, okay, now I'm going to use it as motivation. Like, he would literally have boards, and I'm serious, like I'm not being funny, like Edgar would actually build boards, and at that time I thought it was the corniest thing, but I learned later on, I'm like, I'm doing that in my head, I'm just not putting it on a board.
A vision board.
Like a vision board. You remember that?
Yeah.
And I was so inspired, but I wouldn't say it.
He still has them in his
Exactly,
yeah.
And again,
my wife and I made one together.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, just the things like I said. I learned. He doesn't understand that I learned so much from him. I just never spoke on it. I would absorb like a sponge, and then go do it. When I would watch my dad talk, with where he would point or where the way he would command an audience, I'm like, okay, got it. I was just taking mental snapshots, and then I would execute. So it's cool, man. When I walk into these meetings, sometimes I got tattoos and You know, everyone else is on the laptop, and I'm like, I start looking at my phone playing like I'm doing something.
Projecting like you're part of it.
But my grandma always told me, you know, she always told me, she goes, listen, don't ever make those people make you feel any less. You know, just because they're wearing a tie doesn't mean nothing. She goes, more than likely you have more money than them.
Yeah.
You know, and more than likely, like, they're unhappy because they know that, you know, they're working for you. You know, they're just gonna, you know, be uptight and blah blah blah. So I always remember that when I walk in these meetings, it's intimidating sometimes. You know, you have to put that air of confidence out, but deep inside you're like, man, there's a lot of white people here. Don't disrespect the whites, you know, 'cause I'm part white, you know. Yeah. But yeah, it's nerve-wracking sometimes, you know. And but it's always been cool, man. My grandma's voice plays in my head. You know, don't ever let them feel like they're smarter than you. And one thing my grandma, and I know we're almost out of time, but one thing my grandma told me that I'll never forget is, Mio, hire people that are smarter than you. Mm-hmm. Hire people that are smarter than you, but just don't ever let them know that you know that. You know what I mean?
That's a nugget right there.
Mm-hmm.
That's a nugget right there.
That's it, brother. If I could leave you guys with that, because that's one thing that my grandma instilled in me, and I always said, I'm going to hire people like my graphic artist, Londo, you know, Dre, Ryan. Ryan's gifted, you know? I'm not going to tell him that. But
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always tried to hire people that are smarter than me. You know what I mean? It's all good.
So now as we get ready to land the plane for our conversation, what are you up to as far as your mindset goes, and what are your aspirations for the next 5-10 years?
Well, I'm working with Death Row Movies.
You gotta say 1 year, because, man, this guy works in quantum.
Yeah.
So 1 year, 5 years?
Yeah, 1 year, 5 years, because this guy moves fast.
You know, just continue doing what we're doing, set myself up so I don't have to do all the heavy lifting anymore. You know, my son's learning. I had a show last weekend at the observatory, and I let him handle everything from start to finish, from the production to the promotion to the payouts to everything, and it went out without a hitch. It was a sold out show.
Awesome.
And I said, don't call me, call Devin. You know, he's the man.
Wow.
And it was cool, man.
That is really cool.
Yeah, so that I just want to set everything up for my team and my kids. My daughter's 14. She's amazing. You know, I got her in private school, thank God. You know, and she's thriving. You know, straight A student, and she's the same thing. She's very polite. She's very, you know, mindful. Even though it's funny, when she was 11, she was embarrassed when I would take her to school in a Bentley or a Ferrari, and now she's like, what are we pulling up in? I'm like, don't forget what your dad had to do together. It was funny, man, you know.
Are you still going to be, do you have a passion project for the movies right now? Do you have a passion for that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, look, I really like it, you know, but again, like, I've always prided myself on being behind the scenes, you know, so for me, like, I admired people like George Bush when he wasn't the president. You know, Karl Rove, all those guys that are behind the scenes, those are the ones that I really like a lot. You know, I don't necessarily like being in the front, but I like being in the back, you know?
That's a good point, because you're transitioning from being behind to not being in front.
I know, and it's killing me.
Is that obviously getting out of your comfort zone? Is that stretching you? What's your mindset?
Yeah, I mean, look, I get really shy, you know, but once you get me going, I won't shut up, you know, but like the thought of this today gave me anxiety. I was literally in bed till about 11:10, looking at my watch. I'm like, oh, man, I can't let my boy Edgar down. Do I just say there's a flood because of all this rain?
Yeah.
I was literally trying to come up with scenarios in my head. I'm like, all right.
Lightning struck my house.
Yeah, exactly, bro. And I just said, nah, Edgar will know I'm lying. I know he'll probably pull up with a camera crew and ruin my life, you know?
Go to your house with the camera crew?
Yeah. But really, I just want to just make sure my family's set, you know, my team here is set, so that we never have to worry about anything, you know? In case anything happens to me, God forbid, you know, because life is short, man, you know, and I lived it. Everything will be okay, you know.
Well, we appreciate you. We thank you for
Appreciate
taking
you.
the time
Thank
for
you.
having this conversation.
It's an honor, man.
And,
Nice to finally meet you. I can see why Edgar loves you, bro. You know?
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
right on.
Looking forward to getting to hang out more together with you.
Appreciate you.
Bobby, you just put a fresh breath of air in my lungs. That's what this interview did.
There you go.
We get front row seats.
Absolutely.
And those people who are watching this, subscribe. You guys get front row seats for free.
Absolutely.
You have no idea. This is 30 years plus more of what his father went through, of trials and errors. And you have it for free. Best version of me. Subscribe. I know this ain't going to be the last interview with you, because next it's going to be you winning the Golden Globes and,
There you go.
and the Grammys and then making movies.
I won't show up. I'll do it live via satellite.
Yeah, Bobby D presents the next movie.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, and I see that happening.
Yeah.
I'm,
by the way, just, you know,
I'm being dead serious. You producing movies,
Yeah.
I see that happening in the very near future, and it's probably already happening. But I see you producing big movies, Bobby.
I hope so.
Big things.
I've gotten awards and I don't show up. You know, like that's the number one thing. I get invited to all these red carpet things, and my publicist. Her name's Patty. She's great.
Yeah.
She goes, Bobby, I can't keep inviting you to things and you don't show up, you know? And I'm like, I can't send Devin, you know? She goes, no, he's too young.
Twin. He looks like
I know, but you know, he's not there yet, you know? So, but yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here, and thank you for everybody taking the time out to hang out with me.
Absolutely, man. We're so inspired. We thank you, Bobby Dee, for taking the time out to have this conversation. For those who've watched this, go back and rewatch it. There's so many nuggets there. I encourage you the second time, have a notepad and take notes. And I hope that you're inspired to be the best version of you.